And
Kyle, I just got chills when you said that to me. Because it's so true. I think we all get caught up in this timeline of our lives, and then also comparisons too, which you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Welcome to Voices for Impact. My name is Danielle Mensing, founder of Voices for Impact, and today I'm chatting with my good friend Kyle Mecca. Kyle is an ambitious director, assistant director, and casting director from Buffalo, New York, and he graduated from SUNY Buffalo State with a BA in television and film arts. Kyle's career in film began when he wrote and directed Dwelling in 2016, available on Amazon Prime, so watch it now. And since then, he's worked on major films like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Out of the Shadows, Holdbrook, A Quiet Place Part 2, and A Nightmare Alley. Kyle is also co-owner and partner in Casting Buffalo, a casting company created in Western New York. So Kyle, for our viewers out there that are just trying to discover their purpose and passion in life, tell us, why are you passionate about making movies?
Well, it's just something that I feel like is inherent to me. When I grew up loving film, and I got to thank probably my entire family for it. You know, my mother and father showed me everything when I was little, and I absolutely loved it. And my grandfather showed me older films and all that. And just from day one, I always wanted to tell a story. I just love storytelling. I love the idea of storytelling and that we can escape from that world, our world that we're living, especially now. I think film just seemed like a natural progression for me to go into. It was writing, starting to write. How do I make this have structure and something that people can identify with, and got into creative writing and writing my own short stories, to then, okay, now I want to put it on screen. I want it to be a visual medium. And when I was about 10, I was graduating 5th grade. My dad actually won a camcorder.
Wow.
And he knew that I loved movies, so he gave it to me.
Yeah.
And right away, the entire summer and summers to come and all that turned into us running around, improving, and just making short films and movies as much as we can. When I was going to graduate, and I think this is something for class of 2020 to hear too, is I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. I still didn't know. You know, this was a passion. This is something that I loved. But is that a career? Is that something that I can do? And I looked at it, and I started looking at schools to go into, like, chiropractic. Like, why? No clue what it was, but it was like, okay, you know, this seems cool. I like learning about anatomy, but in the same thing, I'm like, you know, so I toured to different schools and different stuff. And then finally it came down to, you know, I was sitting down with my mom, and she basically said to me, and she's like, you know, well, make sure whatever path you choose, make sure it's something that you love. And film is what I love.
Let me just go back here really quickly, because I think we all, at a certain point, we have two paths. And especially when we're coming out of high school and we're going into college, and there's just, it's been ingrained in us as a young kid, is go to school, follow this path, get a good job, do this. And it's not, and people say, yes, find your passion. But I think people stay down the safe road, and they're like, okay, I'm going to be a chiropractor. Like you almost could have been. But you said, and your mother gave you good advice, whatever you do, you need to love what you do. So, like, what do you think is that unique skill you have that has been able to get you to this point to achieve your goals step by step by step?
I think it's actually able to dive into the passion that you have. And I don't think it's a unique thing for me. I think it's just a perspective that people have to learn, is that you sit there and say, well, what are you passionate about? Okay, well, if you're passionate about something, then make it your work. You know what I mean? Make it your work to make sure that passion happens. You should be pursuing every single avenue that you can create. Try to create yourself, to learn what aspect of, you know, either it be film or any other type of passion that you enjoy the most. Because just like in film is a very multifaceted, huge monster, because it's not just, hey, I'd like to be a filmmaker. Well, what is a filmmaker? Well, there's categories. It's multifaceted. You have to figure out what you want. Me, I always wanted to be what everybody else wants to be. I want to be a director. So what I'd look at as was, okay, how do I break down my passion of film, my breakdown of wanting to direct, what is directing, and how do I get there? And I saw it as every move that I make has to benefit me getting up the mountain. So taking the writing classes, getting into college, getting into that program. Okay, now the first couple years, it's I want to make sure that I chisel how good I am at writing. So I only wrote for things and I didn't direct anything. I was like, just wanted to write it to figure that stuff out. And I gave behind the scene. Okay, then I started directing things. And I said, okay, this is what I like, but I also feel like I need to learn how to produce things. So I started producing the short films that we were doing so I can learn how to do that. Then I got an opportunity to direct a small project in which we needed to fundraise. So we needed to learn how to raise money for a film. I learned so much from that, from the beginning to the end. Then it was graduation. Now what do I do? You know what I mean? And it was like, okay, well, let me look back. What do I love? What is my passion? Well, we have access to an equipment. We have access to actors. We've have some experience raising money and funding. Let's try to make a movie here. Now, let's not try and put it years away. Let's see if we can make it happen now. And we were very fortunate to have that happen. I think it's just clearing your head and figuring out what is your passion, and okay to fall down and try different things. Because some people don't know, or some people do know, but they don't realize that they can actually pursue it and it could be something bigger than what they think it is,
So maybe it's people aren't thinking big enough. You are a person that thinks big.
Yeah.
You see an end goal, and it's something that maybe most people would say that's out of reach for me. I'm just going to give up now. For you, you're always climbing to, what do I need to do? What's this step? What's this step in order to get to where I need to be to see that end goal become a reality?
Yeah, I guess that, yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, especially since, like, for me, I'm not someone who's, and I've always felt this way, and I think I learned it from my mom too, is that, like, I'm not someone who's very cares about the money. My focus is finding people who care about me and people I care about, and then moving up that mountain to doing what I love. And I don't care if it takes 2 years or 5 years or 35 years to get where I want to go. I always know that I have to keep climbing, and I don't know if there is ever going to be a top, and I'm okay with that. Yeah.
What challenges have you overcome? And maybe it was in the process of making this film or in other ways in life, but have you overcome to get to the point you're at now?
Well, filmmaking is challenges. I mean, that is what it is. Me saying the idea that I want to be a filmmaker, it's me willing to step in front of a train, because every single angle that you go into, there's problems. It's problem solving, and there's challenges. And every project that you take on, it's something new. You know what I mean? It's the same, but yet it's new. For me, I needed to have a focus of wanting that I'm a problem solver, that I'm a good problem solver, and I'm someone who enjoys doing that. And actually, I do want to say this quote, and it's so funny because I just found it. So I recently, this past winter, actually end of February and all that, before all this craziness happened, I was lucky enough to work on the film Nightmare Alley, which is directed by Guillermo del Toro, and they shot for about a week in Buffalo. It's an incredible thing. He's an Academy Award-winning director. He's absolutely wonderful. And in person, he was wonderful. 8 years ago, I went to Toronto, where they hold the Toronto Film Festival, and a buddy of mine, TJ, we were lucky enough through Jeffrey Hirschberg of TFA, were given 2 tickets to go to one of his Guillermo del Toro's talks, which was a master class on Hitchcock. And I'm a huge Hitchcock buff. So it's like, this is incredible. Like a almost 3-hour master class with him in which we watched the movie and then we had a Q&A and talked back and forth. But one of the quotes that stuck with me, and it actually showed up in my Facebook feed, was filmmaking is like playing Tetris with a steam engine behind you. And that's filmmaking, and that's problem solving, and that's challenges in film. And that's why I think coming back to connections is a huge thing, because in filmmaking, as in it is in other careers as well, connections is what helps you make that next step. I met Danielle on a film back in 2014, 13, 14.
13? One of those.
One of those. And it was through my professor at Buff State that he was shooting a pilot for a film. We've known each other that long now, and it's still a connection that we were able to make. And it's holding those connections and knowing where they're going to lead. From then, I made the progression of, okay, now I met all these people. I've made a film family in Buffalo. I've proven myself on set. I've proven myself as being a consistent second AD. What's the next step?
With all of these different challenges that happen on a daily basis, to keep doing what you are doing. And I think it comes back to you're passionate about it and you love what you do. Because if you hated it, then you'd say, all right, I'm done with this. I'm not doing this today. But how do you keep that positive mindset?
For me, the positive outlook is that it's something that I think was pushed into me by my parents, and what my mom had to do was always have a positive outlook. If you don't, what is the point? You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have an optimism and positive outlook on stuff, you're just making things so much worse for not only you, but the world around you. Mm-hmm. And the people around you. So I think for some reason, I've always had that optimism. And then, so I just apply it to everything that I do, including film.
What advice would you have for somebody that's looking to be a film director?
Learn how to get on a set. Figure it out. If it's through an internship, if it is through making those connections, wild connections by writing letters or messaging people on Facebook or making random phone calls, get on a set. Because once you get on a set, it changes your entire view of what a director does. Because you realize that you're orchestrating. You're literally orchestrating. Communications and connections are a huge basis. And I think that's not just for film, but I feel like for most careers too. Right. It's like you learn about a person, you learn about their job, what they're going through, and that communication and connection will help you move forward.
And I think that's such a big part about leadership too, that you're talking about, is to be a good leader, you have to be able to communicate with other people and empathize with other people and understand their role and how that role makes the whole thing happen.
Oh yeah. So and I think there's also, and I feel like there's also another huge part is like staying humble about it too. And sit there and say, like, listen, like, don't have an ego. Take that ego and throw it away, because the ego is going to get you nowhere. Right. And being humble about how you got there, how you want to keep going. If you have luck of the draw of, having someone in your family, just stay humble about it.
I think that's a big thing you just said, because I think that some people can get to a point where their ego and their arrogance of where they are takes over, and it's really a detriment to them at the end. They don't see it while it's happening. It's not until the end, when something is fully crashed down on them, that maybe they can reflect and say, oh, maybe I should have checked my ego. But I think that's so important that, you need to stay humble even throughout. At your point now, if you're Steven Spielberg down the road, like, you got to stay humble for sure.
Yeah. And I think those challenges that you go through and those bad days that you go through and those days that knock you down and that why I picked myself up to move up and stuff like that is because I know this is something I need to learn. This is something that I need to go through. And now I can relate to someone, if someone in the future goes through the same exact thing. I've been there. You know what I mean? I understand, you know?
Here's a question. What do you think you wish you would have known when you started out?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Don't hurry. Don't worry about time. Um, and I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, that they feel like there's a ticking clock. You create that ticking clock. Everyone's on their own, think of it as a marathon. You know what I mean? Like everyone's racing at their own speed, and it's okay. And no matter how long it's going to be, you go at your own pace. And
Kyle,
one
I
of
just got chills when you said that to me. Because it's so true. I think we all get caught up in this timeline of our lives, and then also comparisons too, which you don't want to do.
Yeah,
But
as I said, that's the next thing is don't compare. And because the first thing is, one of the famous things is like Steven Spielberg directed Jaws when he was like 27 years old,
wow.
and people were like, "How?" You know what I mean? Like to do there, and it's like you're creating your own boundaries. I guess you're creating your own cell that you're putting yourself in your own cell of like trying to climb out of it by doing that. And time shouldn't be a worry. I think, and then I think that's big for people who are seniors for 2020 in high school and in college or in college and all that, is that time's going to keep moving. Just make sure that you're focused on what you want to do, and time will be your friend.
And I think a last question for me is, how do you define success? And I know we talked about this before. It's kind of a loaded question. So take it from there.
Defining success. I think success is a aspiration that should be assigned by you. So success should be assigned by you, not by anybody else. You create your own success. You define your own success. It's not something that I think anybody else can define for you. So setting goals, reaching goals, if it's even something small on a ladder, that's success. And I think people around you can judge you on what they believe is success, but they don't know who you are and what you believe in. So I guess that's how I would define success, is that it's bound, like there's no boundaries to it.
I think that's so motivational for me, hopefully motivational for our viewers, to just keep going. Don't set boundaries for yourself. Don't have a timeline, and whatever you're passionate about, just go for it, even in the difficult times. It's that's what life's all about. Is just, there's ups and downs, but you got to keep pressing on, and when you're passionate about something, it makes it a lot easier too.
Yeah, and especially in a time like now, we're in a dim time. We don't have answers. There's so much unknown. There's so much different multifaceted aspects, from political to scientific to and all that we don't have answers to. And you have to realize everyone's on the same exact page right now. We don't know. And we're looking to leaders, and we're looking to people but you got to realize they don't know either right now. They're just, all they can do is look at the science.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're at. So what do we do during this time? It's okay to do nothing. It is okay to sit there and take a mental health check, because it is an unknown place that we're in right now. It's also okay to know where you're going, or figuring out a plan of, how do I get the locomotive started once the train tracks are open again? Like, it's okay. So I think this is a perfect time for people who either have passion or want to find that passion to embrace it. And it's okay if you can't do it right now and you have to take a step back. You know, there's no time like now.
Wise words from Kyle Mecca, everybody. So amazing. Thank you so much, Kyle, for coming on. I really appreciate it. And just so our viewers know, Voices for Impact is on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So please follow us, please like us, and stay connected. And see you next time on Voices for Impact.